Hello and welcome to Imp's AEW Adventures podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Help the network out by leaving us a 5-star review, give a donation directly through Ed Circle, and become one of the amazing community by joining the Social Suplex Discord. A link is in the description. Read the Social Suplex newsletter. Shout out to Trish and Tim as always, and to every person who's contributed so far. And listen to the other top-notch shows here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network: One Nation Radio, Keeping It Strong Style, All Things Elite, Wrestling Art with Chris Things, Trish and Sarah, Tunnel Talk, Sam Brown's AEW Match Guide, and Joshing Around. My name is Matt Maher, aka Imp, and this is your quick look back at the AEW week that was. 30 minutes of another strong week of professional wrestling, but also trying to ignore the dickheads in the crowd that seem to be ruining everything. Like, goddammit, with a Las Vegas crowd that was instantly donned as the anti-Mexico. Then one guy shouted, "Come back home, Sasha," and the fan base completely turned on Las Vegas. Done. Done. People that were in the crowd have said that it was a really good crowd. There were just some dickheads, and as a TV viewer, well, unfortunately, those dickheads were right by the mics. They would just kind of go a bit quiet, and then you just hear some nonsense chant. They were constantly trying to get the "let's go" go throughout the entire show. It happened on Collision as well. They were constantly trying to get those kind of chants going, and it's like, it felt like a WWE fan, a loud WWE fan who likes to get chants going at those shows, coming to an AEW show and finding out in the moment, not realising quick that they were doing something which doesn't really happen in AEW. Those type of things just absolutely shone a light on the differences between the fan bases, because you don't need to start a chant to entertain yourselves, because the AEW crowd is actually entertained by the wrestling rather than sitting on their hands being bored or trying to come up with a chant to keep themselves busy or whatever. You don't need to do that in an AEW show. Anyway, yes, I got quite a few notes during the show of moments when I got taken out of it, and I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, like, come on, lads, what are you doing? Absolute embarrassment. I just found it interesting that people at the show would be like, it was just a small section, lads. Not everybody was a piece of crap. But you definitely felt it more given the run of hot crowds for weeks and the likely run of hot crowds to come after. Like, before we get to Wembley, we've also got Glasgow. That's going to be an incredible crowd. But I'm not sure if it was like a bad crowd, more like one group loud and obnoxious ruining it for the rest of them. Because I've been in crowds where you're up for it, the majority of the crowd is up for it, but because there's like one selection of dickheads, you don't make as much noise as you would do otherwise. But I loved Sasha's response to it, just being like, they always send feds to watch our show. It's like, but before I'd seen that tweet, I was just like, they're doing WWE style reactions. He just absolutely screamed it to me. But good to know, it wasn't just me. It wasn't just me like fixating on something and wondering, I wonder if everyone else is able to watch the show and doesn't find it irritating. Is it just noise? Is it just AEW's normal micing problems or whatever? Am I looking into it too much? And then I go online on different social medias and, yep, everyone's complaining about it. Like, god damn it. So yes, if you are going to check out these shows, that's like a bit of a warning thing. Collision was pretty highly edited, so I only ever heard them even trying to start a chant during one match, and I think it was during the Nigel McGuinness Shibata match, where I'm so engrossed in the match that it doesn't really matter that they're trying to do the "let's go" the chant and get that going again. At least that one was feeding into the energy that was there. So yes, unfortunately though, for me saying that, oh, it's not that bad or whatever, the show this week does start with a bit of a wobble, I would say, with the promo segment that came. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about William Ospreay's beginning day in Las Vegas. Let's jump on over to a sound clip from William Ospreay and the various characters.
I mean, what's the motive here?
Get the neck! Get the neck!
Don Callis gets to be on TV. That's the motive. Self-serving as ever.
So first off, in terms of my initial reactions watching this, I didn't know that Kenny Omega was quoting Harry Potter. I had no idea. I was watching it just being like, the pacing and the cadence of this promo is just odd. It's weird. It's Kenny taking a lot of influence from the anime video game character stuff. He's always done that. But there's something about the pacing delivery which felt weird. A director would probably say to the actor, yes, but it's still shit. Like, it doesn't feel right. You'd work on it. Then somebody on social media puts up a clip of Voldemort from, I'm going to assume, one of the late Harry Potter films. Because as, you know, don't go back and watch those films anymore. It's a bit of a shame because they are a documentation of the progression of British filmmaking from the practical effects era into the digital era. It's like every single year one comes out and you see the progression in real time for you to watch them back. That's cool, but unfortunately it comes with a massive caveat. It comes with a big old asterisk. Yes, so in terms of my reactions to this, I didn't know what he was doing. It just felt a little bit odd in terms of what Kenny was saying. I don't need to talk about Kenny Omega yet. I've kind of jumped the gun. This was a William Ospreay segment. So, alright, now Will's going to be taking life a little easier till Wembley. Right? He had his big violent brawl with Davies. We're now going to be nice and calm. He talked about the sucky situation of landing in Mexico nervous about making a good impression on his first time in Arena Mexico last year, then getting a call that his granddad had passed away. In talking about the memory of him, he let us know exactly where he gets his "Oi, do a flip your bell end" vernacular from. Our first proper display of a more confident Will Ospreay called Kenny out in the framing of, I showed him in Mexico, I can pull the trigger, which is a tad of a negative trait. And yes, I want my good guys, my heroes, to have these traits, because he's saying that given he showed he also couldn't pull the trigger at Redemption. And that's what Kenny Omega walks in with. Will Ospreay's showing the bravado, like, yes, look, I went after Mark Davies, who was a former friend of mine, and I pulled that trigger. Kenny Omega doesn't believe it because he saw him not to do it. And I like that in terms of both characters becoming a bit more sterner in their beliefs, making it a bit more difficult for either one to back down when it comes to the final shots before Wembley. Don Callis answered instead, he who hates both Kenneth and William. I have done more damage to Kenny's life than diverticulitis ever could. We're gonna keep going there for the rest of Kenny's career. Reminded the Essex man of his first Wembley match being because of Don Callis, that his bringing into AEW was because of Don Callis, that he doesn't even have John Moxley to help him anymore. All just a distraction for the faction jump, the absolute chumps of the family. Your Wembley road isn't paved with gold, it's paved in blood. And the family gets chased away by Kenny Omega, who teased whacking Ospreay with a lead pipe to give that feeling that he had at Redemption, before talking all serious. For me in the moment, it just felt like anime villain sounding soliloquy, just cutting it on Will. Not a friendship, nor respectful save, more of a, I only make my point if it's the best Ospreay I'm beating in London. It did successfully get across that Kenny doesn't believe the bravado that Will Ospreay is trying to project here. What I liked here was that I was convinced that Will Ospreay believes it, even if Kenny's like, no, no you don't. And that makes for good characters. I don't need to be 100% right behind them in their beliefs. They don't need to be the paragons of virtue. Them being complex and them not being 100% like the best guy in the world makes them far more interesting. But the weird delivery of some of the lines that Kenny said suddenly made sense when played alongside the Harry Potter clip, because it turns out he was doing the exact same pacing and delivery of the line. So he wasn't just quoting something, he was doing the same delivery. I just didn't think it quite worked in this context. It just came across as just a bit odd, especially as someone like me who didn't realise what he was doing. I thought, oh, here we go, here's weird anime villain Kenny Omega again. But in terms of what they're going, in terms of what they're setting up for their characters for Wembley, I really enjoyed all the notes played here. Anyway, we are on the road to Wembley, so both Collision and Dynamite have quite a lot of other notes. So first off, Divine Dominion at a bar with the UK flag put up behind it, so it's the Brawling Birds pub again. The tall women talked shit and dropped a couple pints on the floor in memory of the Brawling Birds run. Mick Foley was backstage with the Bang Bang Gang. I really enjoyed this, and I'm annoyed I didn't predict this pairing. Jay White reiterated the current story with the Dogs, how the Dogs getting wins over them every turn, just in case you weren't sure who was winning his match with David Finlay. Just in case, like, oh god, they've been winning all of these matches. I was like, oh okay, you know what the flow determines now. But putting Mick Foley Bang Bang with the Bang Bang Gang, I'm an idiot. I did love Foley more without him being like, oh I have a catchphrase. It's like, I think it was more like, can I please do the gun thing? And then he does it like, yeah, and then one of the guns I think just adjusted his wrist. So he did it correctly. I feel like Mick Foley started to find his feet pretty quickly with his role. Willow interviewed by Renee. It was nice for Mercedes to oil and glitter up before jumping the woman. The crowd audio was on for the video. Probably would have been better without it, given, yep, this was when we got our Sasha come home to a tepid, oh, you're just lame, come on. You can just tell almost like in the energy of the room, it's like, oh, we've got a really lame person in the crowd, have we? Darby Allin in a heavily graffitied underpass warned Kevin Knight that he's clearly unaware how far Darby Allin is willing to go, and we've got more Darby Allin in unique locations, given his monologues on Collision. Kyle Fletcher in a suit, in a black blazer, no Kyle bright pink. As the greatest international champion, he's now focused on Wembley. Don Callis used Tony Khan's verbiage of giving Takeshita a shot as former champion to twist that into getting Okada into the match too. And the International Championship Fury officially announced in a backstage segment, Okada grating is, what matters most is the title stays in the family. Just Don buying everything Kazu's doing, like he's the greatest guy in the world. Like, he's doing it for the family, isn't he great? And Cal Fletcher, Takeshita, Andrade, everybody sees through it. And then the family loses a guy, but it's how the family works, someone will always come in. I just really enjoyed the dynamic. We are in the peak Don Callis family era. Enjoy it while it lasts. And Takeshita being in the G1 has kind of interfered any form of strong build involving all three of them. The G1 ended this weekend. Well, the final was the day that I'm doing this recording. So if not Wednesday, you would get Takeshita back for the final stuff building up to Wembley. It does mean you got to do all this build without a massive key player. And it feels like they decided to bubble this before Takeshita returns, so that Takeshita will return with the match already announced. But this feels tepid, but because Takeshita's return, they could always muck it up. I've seen it before where somebody would come back because like, oh, it's just relatively standard. It's like Takeshita runs out, not much fanfare, whatever, starts beating people up. It's enjoyable, but it's not the crazy reveal moment you could have done in the ring with all three of them there. Maybe Takeshita's going to be back, so I'm expecting a stronger build from this point on. And speaking of all-in builds, the number 2 spot for the all-in casino gauntlet, MJF versus Speedball versus Nick Wayne. Nick Wayne killed it in the Andrade Perry 3-man 2 weeks ago, so let's just have him do it again. We got more one-on-one action thanks to Max just hot-dogging the crowd and dicking about for the majority of it. Arguably with the most taped leg in AEW today, and even had a bit where he just taught Nick Wayne stomach punching lessons and do a sick move before trying to steal his pin. Super kick from Wayne and we were right back into the Nick versus Mike one-on-one. Canadian standing moonsault double knees onto the poor kid. Gave us our first tease of Friedman actually doing something in going straight for the heat Seeker. Instead to the outside and Speedball springboard flip to send us into the break. Back in time for Max to get knocked down again and room for more athletic flip times. Bailey down and Wayne got his stomach punch revenge on the dickhead teacher. Thanks for the advice, you piece of shit. Speedball then did all the work on Wayne and MJF stole the win. And hey, Max evidently hurt and hardly involved in the physical offense, but did enjoy the ending being that well set up. Light on the Max involvement, but very heavy on the Max character involvement. Like, everything he did in that first half sets up the finish. So even though he's not involved in any of the athletic flows or whatever, he was always there when it came to like the big character beats of the match. Grabbed the mic after chatted shit about there being no one to stop him winning the casino gauntlet when El Idolo's music played in, for me, a tad too evident a fake out, even if I do enjoy Max's performance and the antics. And just a moment to get over his new catchphrase, I'm the one true champion, as he walks around with his Triple B. Wondering if it's meant to be Punk echoes on purpose, because Punk did the I'm the true champion stuff in the first Wembley show, and now Max is doing it going into this Wembley show. But it could just be that Max saw that it got people not liking Punk, so it was like, oh, it worked for people not liking me. It could be as blatant as that. Like it was like, oh, we've seen that it made people dislike somebody, so Max is very good at just picking up those notes and just like, well, I can nail performing that. And to the other ongoing AEW build for the Continental Cup, Jay White versus David Finlay, our first match this week. Affectionately donned the C3. The totally random blind draw just happened to pull out an ongoing grudge match. Just don't think about it. Don't think about it. Trust us, we did the draw off camera. A sign of things to come with a loud but small section of the crowd loudly chanting for David Finlay, with the rest of the crowd loudly chanting for Jay. And it was this match more than the Saturday bit which made me realise that they just wouldn't shut up. And that's where I got that feeling of like, are these just WWE fans who've come to this show expecting that's how you behave at wrestling shows when that's actually how you behave at WWE shows, and wrestling shows are different because they care about the wrestling, so you don't have to do the other bollocks. And I swear that dueling chant echoed in my head like a car alarm through the ad break. It was constant through the first part of it. Much faster pace once we returned, with Mr. Switchblade constantly going for the Blade Runner snap and Finlay quickly countering to fend him off. Dragon Suplex and Jay couldn't hold onto the pin with a neck stinger, so young David just elbowed him right into the back of that neck. Honestly, a really grand idea, just that little moment of seriousness to just, given the chanty nature of this Las Vegas crowd, and force them into a moment of quiet and making noise, then invested when Jay was fighting back up. I thought this wasn't like the craziest match in the world, but I thought they worked this specific crowd really smartly. The two former New Japan lads in a constant counterculture, first flow ending in a white dominator, the second a Finlay brainbuster onto the knee. Back and forth flow, the second they took a moment to rise, let's go Finlay, oh for fuck's sake. I thought they did a great job trying to work with this specific crowd, but sometimes it just can't be helped. 3 heavy lariats, but on the brainbuster lift, Jay grabbed onto Finlay's knee, forcing Finlay to drop it, and as soon as he did, swish into the Blade Runner. A match that I ended up really enjoying. The first half had me pretty fearful, but I thought they did well to get the crowd on board by the end and left them happy for the next segment, which does take me a lot more happy into Brodido and Hangman Page and their promo. Fuck ice, loud and proud for the new trios champions. You'll mind if a white boy speaks a little Espanol? Not tonight, young man. Swerve Strickland has returned. Oh, your former ex. Oh, no. I just love that it feels so conscious that they're treating it like a lover's breakup. It just feels like they're purposely playing on that, and the way that Hangman reacts to it as well. One of AEW's forever feuds brought up forthright. But it's now I took the mic from Shivani, for he and Swerve were going to ask the questions from here. How long have I been gone? What happened to this place? Swerve pointed out that the one thing the trios champions all have in common is Swerve Strickland. Swerve beat Bandido and Brody this year, but all this history seems to come back to the Hangman. Hangman's let the man know that he's wrong about the eye being taken off of him. He never could. He never could take his eye off Swerve. Reminded him about the heinous shit he's done this year. Bold! The Demand, Lethal Swirl and all stood 6 men strong up on the stage. Swerve had a good old laugh at Ricochet's reminder about the toilet paper thing he initiated whilst the crowd were turning on Ricochet back in the day. Ricochet told Swerve off, you're not even a trios guy, get out of here, this is trios business. Sending the online fans into a bit of a, oh, who? Fandom flurry of, oh my god, it's happening. I really enjoyed being online in the days after this show, just seeing that reaction. It's like, oh god, it's actually coming. Ricochet talked all confident cocky with 9 men out there who all hate Swerve. And after telling the men to step out of there, Swerve did. Not without incident, telling Ricochet, Brody King may be the one doing all the barking, but Ricochet, you're the one who's being a bitch. Crowd go, oh, he walks off. Ricochet seems all sorted and the good guys all laugh at him. End of segment. Kevin Knight versus Jericho. Don Callis ordered Knight to win this one for him. You still got it for the sparkly trousers Canadian. Don't encourage him, he'll do head scissors. And he did. Kevin flipped out the corner, trying his best to wind back the years, diving from the corner to an outside Kevin, before sitting on Tall Paul's lap to smile at the camera. Knight ate the knees for trying to take the piss doing his own line salt. More successful with his own athletics, flying with those big old dives, so impressive forearm out the ring. Don Callis distraction in chase, Jericho ready for the Knight attempt to jump as commentary sold old Chris as a smart man. Knight up high chatted shit at the crowd crowd and got his own scissors countered into a powerbomb from on high. Walls of Jericho taming, but Don Callis into the ring couldn't find his screwdriver, or Jericho was out of position, so Don Callis then slides back out the ring. It's like it's in his pocket somewhere. Jericho then, in the walls, walked up to the ropes so Don could stab him with the screwdriver. Like, it's a really weird moment. Either Don Callis gets in there, can't find the screwdriver, or Jericho's meant to come to the ropes, didn't. Don Callis was like, well, I'll just go to you. Then when he gets into the ring, Jericho's like, no, I will come to you. And then Jericho does come to him. It just looks weird. It's one of the things that doesn't make any sense. He saw Don Callis come in from that way, and then the kind of crowd walks up to him. And I don't know why it happened from a performer side. We mucked it up a little bit, but let's just do it this way. From a watching it as the match, it feels just weird. Straight up, why would Jericho do that? But because it's professional wrestling, I just had a little chuckle and moved on with my life. It was silly. Great finish too, with Knight trying to take advantage and Jericho countering with winning blows that Kevin just survived. Judas Effect ducked, nearly hit ref Aubrey. Her turning away in defence gave the Don Callis baddie his moment to swing a delightful dick kick. Lift and spin Uranagi for the win. So Chris Jericho got to wind back the clock a little bit, and Kevin Knight got to have a little bit of momentum ahead of his Derby title defence. Hopefully he won't get cut for time this time, because as much as they say we're going to have this big match, it's going to be da-da-da, there is a hard out time before Wembley, and it costs you a lot of money, and I think it's per minute. It's like a big fine per minute you go over. And it's fair to say this year they've had a bit of an overrun thing. They've had a bit of overtime. But Wembley, there is no overdraft. You are immediately fined. There is nothing. So maybe if you want to make good for Derby, maybe have him early in the show or something. He works better in darkness for his entrance and his mood, whatever. But that does put him at risk of having time cut from his match. They've got to move around the arena. They've got a Falls Count Anywhere match. He's got to jump off something. Chris Statlander versus Viva Van. Does it count as a drama match if Viva Van was card promoted and not Chris Statlander in action? The same section chanted for Viva, like, oh god damn it guys, come on. Convinced the viewer reaction to this crowd is solely because of those few dickheads. Giovanni hyped up Viva as the first Vietnamese pro wrestler to make it to the US televessels, framed as this being a potential career-making win were she to get it. Were she not to get a Saturday Night Fever for the win. Oh, damn it. Maybe next time, Viva. Mick Foley came out after to interview in his Hawaiian shirt covered in images of his dogs. Got old man semi-distracted seeing his daughter on the front row. Don't worry, didn't forget his purpose. Let Stat know that there's a TBS Championship 4-way next week. Stat Daddy is going to make Persephone and Cheetah pay, and AEW style straight into the next tag match we flowed. A match in which Maya World getting the win, and I'm a little bit of like, are you actually defending your title, or is this a get it onto the person that was planned for the match, was planned for Wembley, this was just a nice little diversion? Like, it doesn't really feel that there's a spot for this title on the card at the moment. It feels like it's heading straight towards a kickoff match, if anything. I don't mean for the title, I'm thinking like just a multi-person tag or something at this rate. I'd like there to be something of substance, but at the moment there isn't really. They might fall into something, we'll see. But I did enjoy Mick Foley's performance in this with Statlander. Like, someone managed to do all that stuff and didn't take away any of the focus from Chris Statlander, and when she grabbed the mic and delivered her promo, I thought she did that really well as well. But into the tag of Persephone and Hikaru Shida versus Maya World and Thunder Rosa, and my oh Maya World, what a beautiful bridge toss with Shida already rolled up onto her, just constantly coming up with new shit to add to those bridges. World would get rocked, but not until after she got to do something cool, like popping up after a roll through on one woman into a stunner on another, then she would get rocked. All on her lonesome, Persephone sent outside, and a beautiful bridge pin for the win. The two champions winning over the two newly united baddies without shenanigans. Like, we saw Persephone and Hikaru Shida set up last week properly on the show, and then this week they immediately don't work and immediately take the loss. But we have got the 4-way, and I'm kind of staying away from any sites which could give me any inkling of what's happening, but I don't have any inkling where this is headed. It feels a little bit directionless, but for all I know we're just going to what plan A was. I'll be a little bit bored if it's just straight up Shida versus Stat, because that's what I was saying back at the survival of the fittest thing, where it's just like, you didn't elevate anybody, it was just Shida and Stat in the end. So if you're going to revisit that again for the TBS title and use this to get the title off of Maya World, you've got the heat with Statland and hope that will deliver for All Out, and you hope that delivers for All In. It just feels like this road they've taken will be a bit of a weird diversion. I'd just leave it on Maya World, try and build something. To be fair, you could have used this time to build up these four to have a match. I mean, and given the number of matches at this moment, it feels like leaving the TBS title off of the main card is the way to go, just because you're going to fill it up with so many other things, and this at the moment doesn't have the strength in direction. Like, if you're only allowed 2 women's matches, you've got to make sure it's the tag one, I guess. And the main event, the Continental Cup first round, John Moxley versus Jack Perry. Was this Jack Perry's best straight up match? John Moxley again doing so much for maturing a character. The Jungle Man cut open after Mox introduced his head to the ring post. A pre-ad break flow of Jack finding a burst, but Mox was reading every big hit. Just like a stiff forearm to kill the dive, or crashing him over the barricade into the timekeeper's table to stop the sliced bread backflip. it. The man's head blood really got to flowing during the break. It's a Mox main event, of course there was a bit of red, and the most violent nuggy I've ever seen. Like, Mox did his best to make sure that red still flowed. A great shot during a Mox hold showing a splash of blood on the ring rope in the foreground. The final 5 minutes or so are especially explosive. Full on got our man making Mox style, swung his heavy hitters into Perry, showing his worth. Stiff strike after stiff strike to a near referee stoppage when Jack wasn't protecting himself. Frustrated Mox, but Jack's slap was so weak, even if he was showing his defiance with middle fingers and all. Striking exchange initiated, Mox looked to be winning out until a rebound lariat exploded Jungle back. Ate a power driver earlier, but hoisted for one of Perry's own. It's Mox's move, so the rider fought out. And snare trap by Jack. Really got to hold it in, with Mox taking strikes to the back of the head, like trying to bite Perry's arm to escape. Got to see that desperation. And Jack Perry rise up to the moment in the same breath. A full flow of ground wrestling, armbar, bulldog, all swift transitioning just to get to the sleeper. One last roar rising from Jack, but the Jungle Man faded, and yet again, man bleed with Mox to earn his respect. Mox progresses. You would think Mox is going to the final. The question is, which road do they go with? Do they go with the predictable Wembley thing of book Nigel? He's from there. Or do you go a different route of trying to just do the biggest match you can do in terms of where the characters are within the card? Do you revisit Moxley, Kyle O'Reilly? There's different things you can do. It feels like the most obvious is just put Nige in there. It's the Continental match. It's not the biggest problem in the world if that's the big Nige match. You're doing it for the English crowd. And it's the FA Cup. It kind of makes sense that it's designed on an English competition, that an Englishman would progress through it. I mean, there is a little asterisk on that, which we can talk about when we talk about Collision. And let's do that. Let's talk about Collision. I guess I'll say it now just in terms of like the overall reviews. I feel like these are enjoyable shows. Collision flew by a lot faster for me, and I don't know if that's because it was edited, so a lot of any negatives that came, especially from the crowd things that were happening, they were able to be either edited around or whatever, just to make the show a lot easier for you to get immersed into it and stay immersed into it. And it does sometimes feel like there's less pressure on Collision to build those bigger stories, even if they've done a much better job of making Collision feel important to watch, having those big stories. That is a really good Mercedes Moné Willow note on this show. Collision feels like viewing that you should be doing if you're watching AEW now. It doesn't feel like this weird side thing. But I feel like they've finally discovered how they really should be working Collision. And anyway, yes, it's just Collision, back to Las Vegas, and more of this Continental Cup thing. That is maybe a better way to hype it up. I mean, I'm not even going to start with that. I'm going to start with the Trios Championship, the match that opened the show. So let's play a sound clip from the Lethal Swift versus Brodido and Hangman.
The Fed's out of options. Rate cuts, money printing, balance sheet reversals. They call it policy, but it's really panic. This is in-game economics, where hope replaces discipline and the illusion of control finally breaks. They're not cutting rates because things are strong. They're cutting because the system is cracking. Inflation's eating savings. The labor market's stalling. Confidence in the dollar is fading fast. For decades, the Fed built a house of paper. Now they're striking the match that could burn it all down, leaving you to pay the price. When's the last time you actually held the wealth you've spent your life working for? My friends at Noble Gold Investments have been helping Americans move from paper wealth into real tangible assets. Numbers on a screen can disappear, but physical gold and silver, they've outlasted every crisis in history. Visit NobleGoldInvestments.com and get your free wealth protection kit today. That's NobleGoldInvestments.com for your free wealth protection kit. Discover how simple it is to protect your future. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals, including gold, involves risks. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
The alley. and the open from Brody King. There it is. 1, 2, 3. Still the champs.
Before we get into the match, there was a super informative line on the name graphic. First trios match since their last one. Thanks, guys. Sometimes when you haven't got some like really great joke or great character piece, you just do something silly and stupid. That's such a stupid graphic bit. But for me, that leads into it if they're going to do something silly every now and then. The same crowd, the same fuck ice starting chant. The next chant edited out though. Boo! How dare you deprive an Englishman of his curse words. The Twist men got to have their fight and flow before the break. Like, hey, why not let them have a minute? They're not going to win anyway. And returned right into Bandido's dive, Brody cannons, and Hangman moonsault off the second tier railing in the crowd. I do love these unique smaller venues. You can't do that and land near the ring in the arena. If you're in a big arena, you can't do a moonsault from like a crowd barrier area and land right next to the ring. The Lethal Twist explosion back in was great. Nailed that 6-man chaos building on top of itself right into a this is awesome. Brody catching, Jay Lethal dived, Christian held, and Johnson stomped off the ropes all in one quick rapid evolving flow. And Hangman's buckshot in came right in the middle of their heat, completely out of nowhere. nowhere. The champions on top from there on out. Lee Johnson lifted up to Brody, the other two dove out, and piledriver swish into the win. After the match, Dick O'Shea out onto the stage to chat shit, a distraction to ignite our post-match big boy beatdown from the other two Demand lads. Hangman started to actually fend off both Khan and Leona, till the lethal swerve made the numbers impossible to overcome. Tall Paul and Commentary made a loud big deal of Brody King laying on top of Paige's body. To prevent most of Tall Paul's big moments, if he's feeling enthusiastic about something, he's going to be loud about it as well. Kind of our first true showing of the Demand and Swirl villains working well on the same page. Tony Khan has to do this sometimes, where instead of just immediately initiating somebody into a faction, he'll have them slowly work their way in until it starts to feel a bit more natural and they're all working on the same page, and he's done it again here. The Lethal Swirl wanted to be part of the group. The Demand were like, I guess. They kind of just hung around them, but now they're Ricochet starting to see their worth, trying to see what they can offer. It starts to feel slowly a bit more natural for them to be around the group. And as promised, a ton of other notes, so let's not waste any time. Don Callis got his moment with Lexi there to build up his boys, Hechicero and Brian Cage. A chuckle as he translated the Spanish, as if Lexi wouldn't have been able to realise it was even Spanish. The conglomeration with Alexi before their match too. Kyle looking super naked, with his merch shirt so large it went to his legs, rocking the just had sex and grabbed the nearest t-shirt to go downstairs and get some water look. You don't see that often in wrestling. It's just weird little things wrestlers can do to make themselves feel way more naked. Like, what do you mean not wearing knee pads? Put those things away. My God, put those things away. Darby Allin with not the best audio, leaning on a scrapyard train as he talked shit on Kevin Knight, praised Sting's son and promised to not blow Kevin up before Wembley. But their TNT title match will be Falls Count anywhere. The Rascals fisheye lens up high, gotta sell that sensation. Leo Rush rose up, he needs friends. Even for them, he's a little too weird. They had a match later in the night. Will Ospreay with Renee, I promised to call his boys in Japan to come help against the Don Callis family. And oh, look at that, the G1's finished. That's convenient. Tommaso Ciampa with his All Roads Lead to Wembley promo, all serious, sat on a production box, hyped up the casino gauntlet and why he cares so much about it. If you believe in a god, pray that I'm not number 3. A covered in blood Jack Perry with the amped stairwell promo. They say iron sharpens iron. Before he listed all the main AEW players he knows he's got to face in order to get anywhere near good enough to even think about becoming AEW champion. Swerve in from stage right, brutal in his honesty. You're not quite ready to hang with killers like us. Jack used the blood all over him as proof that maybe he is, and Swerve with that final killer line, don't bring a knife to a Swerve fight. Is that our Wembley play? It felt like our Wembley play could be Hangman and Brodido versus Swerve and the New Day. Do you put the Demand in there as well to make it a 3-way trios thing like they did at All In last year? Speaking of trios, Kenny Omega ragged on the Don Callis family. Camera pulled back to reveal the Bucks. The Elite's back in the trios match on Wednesday. Kevin Christian a bit more critical of that, given that, well, they're meant to be having a big dream tag match at Wembley, and they're taking the trios match here. They were in to make the moment a bit more serious. The rifts more apparent following the Mexico loss. Matt not being a super fully kind anymore. What I'm saying is, you're old. You're old enough to be our fathers. And then Christian just being like, he says I'm not. Long pause. He's not my father. From Nick. That felt like a comedy line, but it was delivered in full total seriousness. And I've been watching so much old BTE for a project that it took me a second to adjust to Nick mentioning he's in his late 30s now. That there's me watching this young 28-year-old child. And then suddenly now he's like, oh yeah, I'm nearly 40. It's like, oh god, yeah, the BTE stuff is now like a decade old. Yeah, we're well past that now. And now into the Continental Cup first round match. Brian Cage versus Hechicero. Blind Hat pulls giveth not one but 2 inter-faction draws. Don Callis all for a bit of some good family competition. I just love how it's just so blind to there being actual problems. The CMLL World Champion took those medal-winning large arms of Brian and torqued and wrenched them like an explosion of power versus a technical magic man slowly working down. Oh my god, the power! Such a fitting final commentary note before the ad break as Cage suplexed the apron stud fella back into the ring. He can't lucha like I can lucha. A ton of a cocky statement, but Brian had just hit a 619 during the ad break. Definitely came back to bite him because yes, the luchador wrestler could indeed lucha better than he could lucha. Nay spinning discus, flying leg guillotine, always delightful. Rolled up Cage all stacking high weight on him. 1, 2, 3. Hechicero goes through. I mean, I know you're meant to be selling the feel of a random draw, but Hechicero versus Big Nige smells hella tasty to me. Like you look at the matches, like you look at the potential matches within there, the tastiest one for Nigel is Hechicero. Like technical Brit Rest versus luchador technical magic man. Like yes, absolutely yes. Speaking of people English people will face, what a smooth transition. The Divine Dominion versus Jobbers, Rochelle and Maserati. Oh, yup, fans bowing down to tall women as they enter feels like something that 100% is going to get over. Rochelle seemed to be a little too happy to successfully grab and twist around Cross, just forgot to actually do anything that would hurt the Aussie. Bainin, no nonsense, just launched a woman. Paul Maserati got lariated to hell. Double chokeslam, halted temporarily, synchronized suplex for a good show of strength, stalled for half a minute at least, then you get your double chokeslam for the win. As teased on Dynamite, the Brawny Birds ran out by taking their second favourite activity after going down pub in it. They're so cartoonishly British. I'm assuming all you Americans are loving this, but as an Englishman, I feel partly offended. Like, it's so stereotypically over-the-top cartoonishly British. Back to the Continental Cup and to Nigel McGuinness in his match against Katsuyori Shibata. As somebody who was watching New Japan at the absolute hype dream following for Shibata, for me, it's just so great that we actually get to see this. Like, two lads where life took them both out of wrestling. And in 2026, we get to see Nigel McGuinness versus Shibata. That's just a match that, especially when Shibata had his injury, you just never thought you'd ever get to see. Shibata with such a serious injury, such a long recovery time, like years upon years until he was able to like do anything in terms of competing on a card or TV or whatever. Nigel McGuinness as well, completely taken out of it, thinking he would like never have made it and whatever. He made a really good documentary. If you've not seen it, he made it himself, kind of about the depression of not making it and the way that his career ended. The documentary is so good that when he was with WWE, they basically made their own version of it. His own documentary was so good and so raw and real that WWE made their own produced version of it. Back then, they used to do really good documentaries. So I think I'd recommend both of them. I don't remember the WWE as strongly as I remember Nigel's, but anyway, tangent, let's talk about Shibata. Really sounded like the crowd were totally up for this one. Only for those dickheads to shout out random shit and kind of ruin what would have been an awesome atmosphere, but it's from people who were there, it sounded like they enjoyed the match regardless. The dickheads didn't take anything out of it. I'm watching it like, don't censor my holy shit at the start, but totally cut those bellends out. It didn't stop me from enjoying this match either, to be fair. A good laugh at Nige tapping his head all smart, completely unaware he was sat perfectly for a good stiff penalty kick to the back. Also just a really loud, oh, fuck off. I love you, Nige. Two proper veterans able to get a fight forever out of a series of headlocks. I've got till 5, referee, got you, as well as Nigel worked Shibata's kicking leg. I liked how he's just whipping Shibata into the ropes and using the ropes as a damaging thing themselves. Some nice little cheeky clever counters, like a proper penalty kick run up stopped by Nige getting his foot up in the way. I mean, that did hurt his foot, but at least he didn't get kicked in his chest. This time your quick roll up was used to finally give him the proper PK. Shibata sleeper locked in deep, but swift roll back trapped the shoulders for the sudden win. Like, no excuses, Shibata, that's your finisher, that sleeper. Mox would be flipping livid at you for letting the man roll back over you like that. Also, yay, big Nige to Wembley. But then an uh-oh. During the main event, Tony Schiavone gave us the news that McGuinness had suffered an injury. But you've got to tune in to the hat draw on YouTube to get the details. If it's not legit and you've got a different winner in mind, then it's not the worst idea, I guess, being like, oh, he's unfortunately got an injury, but da-da-da. And if he's legit injured and he was the plan, oh man, that sucks. You get a Wembley singles match and then suddenly you get injured in that match. And we'll see. They said they're going to talk about it on Monday. Unfortunately, again, I said this last week, but I'll get this edit out before the draw happens, so I'm not going to include it or stay up to include it. The Rascals and Leo Rush versus Jobber Team. And I'll get to the Rascals and Leo Rush's pairing, but as soon as I saw those names for the Jobbers, I was like, I'm not remembering all that. We can bet I remembered first schematic. Like, also a hell of a look of a group immediately. Ringside tried to stop Leo, but his cat pounced and dove onto all of them. Maybe the Rascals like this weird little fella a little bit more after he legit took out all 4 guys. Bit at one lad in the corner as the Rascals did actual wrestling in the middle of the ring. More biting this time on the wrist, set the Jobber lad for a 3-man super kick. Dives out onto all of them, then all the dives onto one poor lad. Final tag out to Leo, with the crowd fully in, playing ball chanting for him. But then he couldn't dive because it was raining. I think he went into that weird part of his character. And then just snaps into the castle mutilation instead. I just like that opposite end of the fancy. Like, instead we've just got an ultra-violent submission. Just you think you see a flashy flying thing, and instead he just does that to the guy. On the stage for We Hurt People, and a flashback to Leo's past. Very opposite ends of how seriously do you take yourself spectrum of wrestlers. Seeing what Leo Rush is doing right now and seeing what Bobby Lashley's doing right now. They used to be paired together once upon a time. And into the Hurt Syndicate with their Jobber match, teaming up with Shane Taylor Promotions. A fresh new lineup of 4 presented, primed before them to get the shit beaten out of them. Lashley's spear ringside turned one poor lad inside out, whilst Benjamin kicked and tossed about the others. Another spear, and an MVP up on the ramp orchestrated. Like the meter had ran out, held up the money that was given last weekend, took his men out of the match. Like, hey, they'd done their job and set up Shane and Taylor and friends for their win. And once they've done their thing, they're not even staying for the ending or the victory or whatever. We've done our job, we are out of here. Package pile driver may be a tad unnecessary to the already beaten Jobber lad, but a statement sent, I guess. I've completely lost who it is that Shane Taylor wants the Hurt Syndicate to help him destroy, but this was like a, let's see if we can work together to beat up these jobbers. We will be together in this weird way where I'm paying you, and we're making that like a very blatant thing. It's a huge part of the Hurt Syndicate's thing. We literally go out, beat people up, do our jobs, and just leave. Go once that bit's done. Zeta Steel versus Mercedes Moné. This was a highlight of this show. I really enjoyed this. Early in the show, we got Zeta Steel interviewed by Moné after Dynamite. Mercedes walked in and treated her like a plucky fan. The young woman stood up for herself, and we got our story of Mercedes promising to teach her a lesson. And Bluminek, Zeta's selling was so good. Mercedes shit just looked brutal. Afterwards got to shout, I hope you're watching this, Willow. I think I've absolutely nailed the accent. Steel's own flow was was great too. Just one of those talents improving so much every next time I see them. And yes, what a finish. Submission win, just grabbing at Zayda's face, pulling on her mouth to force a smile. That is good shit. Just yes. And it's Willow. Made the save with a microphone. You want to fight? I'm here right now. Not falling for the bravado bluff. Willow just straight shooting in her, you know I can beat you. And guess what? I'm still smiling, bitch. There we go. There's a character follow-up I was hoping for. We got to see the initial arguments. We got to see the big, what felt like a big blow-off match in Mexico. This brought all that character stuff right back into it. I thought this was great. Best note was easily Mercedes putting the smile on Zayda. Just, oh yes, it was such a great note. And if she does that in Wembley, she's going to get booed so loud. It just feels like an absolutely perfect spot of being an absolute piece of shit. And then onto the main event, the final first round match of the Continental Cup. Roderick Strong versus Kyle O'Reilly. Faction friends who didn't hold back at all. Roddy with a ton of back-focused fun times. Is typical backbreakers, but also dropped onto the apron, yay. Onto the barricade, yay. For Kyle, it was his opponent's ankle that got the wear. Strong going, me ankle, after each backbreaker, after each chop. O'Reilly was the one fighting back in that explosion of a lariat impact. Armbar after, because we got to tease our way to the sudden snap into an ankle lock. More than one, both these guys kind of applause, especially when they entered the frantic back and forth, constantly countering flow. I'm not going to recap it all, but they really dipped into the two being so familiar with each other that the final backbreaker or twist into an ankle lock was never actually coming for either of them. In the end, Kyle used Roddy's counter to the armbar to roll him up for a sudden three. Arguably the kind of pin finish that you could have called and put money on. The AEW love their roll-ups, and I personally don't see that as a negative, especially if you're doing all these roll-ups on TV or whatever. Keeps the competition heavy and makes roll-ups feel dangerous within the company. Like I was talking about with Nigel McGuinness catch Shibata, like there's a roll-up that happens there, but it's a fake out because you're setting up for the PK that they've been doing all match. But because you believe roll-ups, the bit before the PK feels like, oh crap, is it going to be a pin? Because you believe roll-ups so much in AEW. It feels far less of like a crutch with a lean on and more of a very purposeful decision to have loads of matches end that way. For me, it's because it's done within the feeling of it being competitive rather than distraction roll-up, oh no, things happened, drama. Great stuff. With the added note of tension after, Roddy pushed Kyle onto his arse before apologising. Like, no, I did not read that as them teasing a split at all. I saw that as a great way to get over how much that loss meant to Roddy before just reiterating the friendship of the conglomeration again. Like, it's okay. He was just pissed that he lost and they're competitive. It's fine. I didn't read that as anything more. And yet, that was the two shows. Really a pretty big come down from the incredible crowds that we've had. Obviously, not just talking about Mexico, but Detroit were incredible the week before. We've got Glasgow coming up. I can't remember where it was, but from what people were saying online, they were talking about next week as being a good crowd in the past as well. So it doesn't feel like, oh no, we had a great crowd and now we're just into crowds. Like, no, this feels like it's going to be an outlier because you can guarantee the Glasgow crowd is going to be something unique. We are right into the corner of All In. It feels like there might be a little bit of wheel spinning, and to be honest, the Continental Cup for me covers a lot of those cracks. Like, instead of everything just being, this is going to be a match that this is going to be you've got this ongoing tournament giving you great matches, which give the shows a lot more purpose rather than wheel spinning. For me, this is like a huge commentary on what happened with the WrestleMania build for WWE. So I'm not talking about this year's because I didn't see the build, but the year before that, and I've heard the commentary on it. It seemed very similar. Like, they get the matches set up and whatever, but it feels like there's just a lot of wheel spinning, and there's no point watching the TV up to the show. You're not missing anything by not tuning into those shows most weeks. And it sounded like from the commentary I was saying that this year was very similar. But in doing this Continental Cup thing, suddenly every single show's got a purpose. There's an ongoing tournament. So if there were any wheel spinning, which is kind of happening a little bit with the stretching out of Will Ospreay, Kenny Omega stuff, Mercedes and Willow's notes were good, but technically I guess are a little bit of stretching out a little bit of thing. We've got 3 more shows to go. But none of that really matters when the shows themselves have quite a big purpose because of these Continental Cup matches. So I think in terms of the flow of the build, it really works in that way. Does it make me super care about the cup? Not massively. So it's a bit of a loss in that one. But it feels like it is giving the show's purpose where it could be a little bit of wheel spinning. That said, it feels like all of their stories are in a good place. Actually, really, in terms of the show, my only negative really was Kenny Omega's promo, I think, just didn't work. That's excluding the Harry Potter thing, because I'd said it as like, I described it beforehand as like an anime villain soliloquy, like it, and the pacing and delivery of it was just a little bit odd and weird. It didn't really feel like it connected. Yeah, so that's really my only negative. I feel like these shows have purpose, but this is not wheel spinning. Anyway, we're nearly there. We're nearly at Wembley. When we get to the week of All In, I won't be talking about the Glasgow shows, but just know that I really enjoy whenever they did the British shows before All In last time, and I feel like they know how to bring it. Like, are they solely responsible for getting Big Billy's job back at WWE? Is it them just getting so behind him like he's their favourite wrestler in the world? Is that suddenly help? Anyway, who they're going to promote, that's my thing. Are they going to do the same again where they just latch onto a wrestler and make them the biggest deal in the world? You can't predict who it is. Anyway, I'll be back this time next week to talk about AEW and Collision on the build to Wembley. Hopefully, we've got rain forecast over here. I don't know what it's been like in America, but I'm assuming you've seen all the heatwave stuff to do with the UK, Europe, sorry. Mainland Europe has had like proper heat waves over the last little bit, but the UK, we haven't really felt the heat waves to the same degree till this year. Like, we don't get wildfires, and the fact we've had so many across the country, they put out a government warning just to be like, can people stop using these disposable barbecue things because we've had so many fires? We're not used to having grass dry like this. Like, quite genuinely, we've had like 1 hour's worth of rain since the start of June, so it's a bit it's a bit hot. So hopefully this time next week we'll have a little bit of water, things will be a little bit cooler, I'll be able to use my brain a bit more so I can enjoy my wrestling in my peace. That's the end note, because the most important thing obviously is me enjoying my wrestling. Me realising talking about a genuine serious topic for just a second and just being like, don't know how to tie this back to wrestling, but I've done it. Anyway, I'll be back this time next week, so thank you for listening and liking and engaging in any form, any manner. Always appreciated, never take it for granted. See you at the same time next week. So with that, I bid you adieu. Adios.